Hello and welcome to Mark's NOTCAST, an irregular series of whenever I talk about whatever the heck I want, however I want, whenever I like. And I normally, of course, I do like hour-long things where I talk about a band and an album and a period in time and some years of my life and how it all relates to everything. And those are long, and they take a lot of intellectual gumph to do. And I normally have a cheat sheet here with some writings on, but I'm not doing that today. This one was inspired by a video series which I saw today, which was Criterion's Celebrity Picks. There's also one that's run by a French VHS store where famous people, not famous people, I'm not a famous person, go in there and pick stuff off the shelves and talk about it. And I thought I'm going to do a short one and talk about one particular film and its most recent release. And of course, like all Marks that love movies, I like a film called Caligula. Actually, I think to say like is probably overstating it. I am fascinated by this particular film, and it very recently had a reissue or a re-release in what was called the Ultimate Cut. So I'm going to talk about the 5 released official versions of this film and some of the themes that go in it. And also, of course, should you buy this? Well, I think it's fair to say that Caligula is a unique film in cinematic history, in so much as this was bankrolled by Penthouse in 1979. It features Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren, John Gielgud, a number of other famous people, which I'm looking at right now. Peter O'Toole, for example, and is a historical biopic based upon the somewhat hedonistic and decadent life of a Roman emperor, Caesar Caligula, who, according to legend, was murdered by his own people. And it's a fascinating film about excess, success, and just mindless, crazy hedonism, exploring at the edges of things. But also, it's a film that to me, I find really very, very interesting. It's about obsession, and it's about what happens when one person gets fixated on an idea or an outcome and follows that far beyond any logical conclusion to the point where some really crazy stuff happens. The Ultimate Cut is, in my opinion, the best version of the film that's been released by far. And watching it, you can see actually Malcolm McDowell put together a very solid and unlikable performance. It's very good, actually. He did some of his best work in this film, and it was all scuppered and thrown on the floor in the favour of the released versions of the film. And that's where, can't avoid the elephant, or perhaps the word you're looking for is the horse in the room, is Caligula has been released in 5 different editions over the years, only 2 of which are even vaguely watchable. After all, the commentary on the DVD release from Arrow of Caligula starts with Malcolm McDowell saying, "Oh gods, here we go," because it really is that bad. So in reverse order, let's talk through kind of what happened to it. So released in 1979, the released version of Caligula that everybody saw to start off with was stolen from the director Tinto Brass, and reshoots took place on the sets, and then a new version of the film that never would have been should have been released was made. So this huge Roman epic about decadence, hedonism, excess, unrestrained bonkersness, about the corruption of power, the indulgence of whims, which are something that have really kind of like, well, since I first saw Killing, I was fascinated by that story. And it's a story that actually also reminds me very much for 2 classic films about one man's obsession, and they are Scarface and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Both of those films have fascinating stories to tell about a person that becomes obsessed and fixated on an idea that ultimately leads to life-changing or life-ending situations and circumstances where they got so fixated on a certain result and output that they forgot the sight of what was really, really important. And in some cases, that's staying alive or staying on this planet. Both very good films, by the way. And whilst I have the opportunity to talk about it, I will absolutely 100% definitively recommend to you, if you watch a version of Scarface, that the TV edit of Scarface, which features considerably less swearing and violence and considerably more in the way of story and plot, is the version that at least once you watch during the course of your life, because it's much better than the other version of the film. The grotesquely over violent effing and jeffing. I think it's got 267 swear words in Scarface. It doesn't need them. And when you watch the TV version of it, you see the tragedy unfold. You see Tony Montana and Al Pacino's acting actually in front of your eyes. You don't see that's not obscured by the other graphic content that's in there, because all of that actually is to demonstrate a story. Caligula is very, very similar to that. And by the way, there's 3 different editions of it that are readily available in the UK. This version, which is about £1.50 from CEX, is atrocious. It is the most bowdlerized, castrated, unwatchable version of the film, because this takes the X-rated cut and then turns it into a 90-minute R-rated version, which was shown in American cinemas. Scenes were taken out, rejiggled, moved left, right, and centre. Violence was removed. It's an incoherent nonsense. It's as if someone said, "Well, just take out every third shot in the movie. That'll bring it down by a third. The film will be fine." Update, kids, wasn't fine. It takes an hour off the film's 2.5 hour running time. It comes in at a scant 90 minutes. It's incomprehensible bullshit. And also, by the way, the transfer that's used on this is taken from a 4:3 non-anamorphic VHS quality transfer. The film does not make sense in this version at all. I only have it out of curiosity to watch it. It's lacking in any worth whatsoever. If there is one home release of Caligula that you do get, this is probably the best version to get. It's the Arrow 4-disc Ultimate Imperial Edition that was released on DVD around 2008. And a slightly smaller version of it was released on Blu-ray in 2011. And I say slightly smaller because the version that was released on Blu-ray has 2 discs. It only has 1 cut of the film. And there are 5 versions of the film which you can have. So this one is the version to get. It contains, the complete uncut version. And the complete uncut version is a travesty of filmmaking, whereas this version is the tragedy. This one has extra scenes that were shot on the set outside of working hours by Italian pornographic men and women, actors and actresses, well, not that good at acting or actressing, having full-blown sex on camera in the sets and then spliced into the rest of the movie. So, for example, a scene that was shot in the daytime with Malcolm McDowell looking aghast at something was then spliced in with very graphic shots of people having sex on screen, up all the way to completion, which he was kind of looking at it going, but he never looked at it. He didn't even know that stuff was happening at the time that it was being filmed. It was inserted into the film later on, and it looks atrocious. I mean, from a purely technical point of view, the framing, the film stock, everything about those insert shots very clearly screams that it was thrown in later on with no artistic intention or integrity whatsoever, but just to titillate. It's also, by the way, the least interesting and least erotic on-screen sex that I've seen outside of Requiem for a Dream. You look at it and you just go, it's just grotty and grotesque, and there's no, part of sex surely is to have joy and enjoy it, whereas in the sex that you see in this film, it looks like mechanical, animalistic, rutty. You might as well be watching a praying mantis rip the head off a small vole or something, because it's just so not even carnal. It's just so brutally animalistic. It's grotesque. And the violence in the complete uncut version is absolutely revolting. There's a point beyond which it just becomes far removed from anything relating to actually translating and telling a story or a narrative. It just becomes gratuitous. And for me, sometimes you need violence in a movie to tell a story. Some of the best films ever made have been incredibly violent. You know, The Raid 2, by the way, phenomenally good, but that's because every shot in it, every piece of violence is actually a ballet between people, and it tells a story. It shows you their people's fighting styles, their thinking styles, the way that it works. Caligula, there's just like, well, we're going to put 30 seconds of fucking in here. Sorry, guys. Okay. Malcolm McDowell just looks shocked for a bit. We'll splice you in from stuff that happened 3 weeks earlier, and then that's how it goes. The complete uncut version, oh, God help me, is exactly right. It is an atrocious film. It's also narratively incoherent. There's a couple of sequences that you do get to see in the ultimate cut, which makes sense of the rest of the plot. So there's a scene with Proculus and a killing machine, for example. It shows how a character embarrassed Caligula and therefore caused his downfall later on, much like, for example, when Obama did the mic drop on Donald Trump and ruined the rest of Western civilization for all of us. It's that kind of thing where without that you would go, why is that guy so obsessed with exacting some form of revenge and vengeance on some kind of unseen imaginary slight? Well, in this version of the film you get to see why, and it's because Caligula is embarrassed by his failure to execute his vision by that person, and that person therefore becomes the enemy. The complete uncut version is dreadful. The version on here, the alternative version, is okay, and that's the pre-release version of the film. So that features pretty much all of the footage that's in the complete uncut version, but takes out all the gratuitous sax and violins, and therefore that version, the alternative version, is probably the best version of it that has existed until relatively recently. It does contain a couple of scenes that are absolutely essential and should be in the ultimate cut but aren't. Primarily one where a character is dying and another character asks him, what's it like? What do you see? Which is a fascinating insight into that character's motivations. And another scene where Caligula tries to throw back or kind of control nature as an example of the ridiculousness of the power that's given to the emperor, that he can't control everything just because he wills it. Two scenes really, really important, not in the ultimate cut, but they are in this. So this version is worth seeing, although it's still, I'm afraid to say, absolutely dripping in pointless and gratuitous violence. Is nowhere near as absolutely revoltingly, pointlessly grotesque and graphic as the complete uncut version. This version is also rearranged so it matches the script order that was originally planned in films as opposed to any other. Then we have, oh God help us, the theatrical version, which is like the complete uncut version but slightly smaller and equally terrible, in so much as if you're trying to watch the story about a man's obsession and a man's compulsion to explore, to climb every mountain, to experience every emotion, every feeling and every combination, it's all in there, but it also obscures the story being told by randomly inserting shots that you just don't need in the film at all. So there you have it. And then finally we've got the extras. Boy, what a lot of extras there are. And there's John Gielgud looking as if, oh God, I'm going to get paid a certain amount of money for this. So the 4-disc version on DVD is probably the most easily achievable version of it to get. The Blu-ray version does not contain 2 alternate cuts of this. So, for example, disc 2 on here features the Malcolm McDowell commentary, the Helen Mirren commentary, Ernest Volkman commentary, I'm not sure who that is, and deleted and alternative scenes. And disc 3, the original theatrical version, features some North American bonus footage and some behind-the-scenes stuff. And then on disc 4, 2 making-ofs, an interview with John Steiner, a conversation with Laurie Wagner, who was one of the Penthouse Pets, and a documentary called The Orgy of Power about Tinto Brass. So if you are thinking of a version of Caligula to get, this is the one to get. If you're okay with that, that's affordable, but the trade-off is you don't get the ultimate cut, and the ultimate cut is the best version of the film by far. Is it good? I don't know. I'm fascinated with it, but I'm not going to necessarily say that I like it. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion over the course of approximately 178 minutes. The narrative is much clearer. The motivations for the characters are much clearer. The story is clearer. The flavour of the film is still there. There are a couple of scenes that are necessary for plot purposes that are grotesque enough to make sure or make you know that you don't need to watch, for example, the scene that's in this, which is women shitting in public, or sexual assault, for example, random murder, someone having their genitals cut off in an extremely revoltingly graphic fashion. That's just absolutely unnecessary. That isn't in the ultimate cut. The ultimate cut, you get to see Malcolm McDowell's performance, you get to see the story and the tragedy. It really is the best version of the film that has been released. The other thing that I will warn you about is the music in both of these releases is not great. The music in this version, the original 1979 score, is bombastic and unsubtle, but at the same point, following in the footsteps of somebody like Jerry Goldsmith or John Williams, tells a story through the use of motifs and themes, so you can hear plot points being told through the music, which is, what the best music in a film does. This one has a new score that is not so precise, and therefore you miss that extra layer of subtlety. Can't believe I'll ever say that about Caligula, but there you are. So, Caligula, the ultimate cut. This is a Spanish Blu-ray, single disc, bare bones version. It's got, I think, a trailer on it, and it's got the voice with Spanish subtitles, and the English language version of it hasn't been released on disc in the UK yet. The ultimate cut is available on the BFI player. Do watch it. The extras that are on the international editions of the Blu-ray, most of them are on YouTube, so you can go and get them from there if that's what you want. So, short, sweet, unexpected. Caligula is a film that I'm fascinated with. It is not a film I'm fond of. I kind of watch it with my hands over my eyes and wonder about what it is. But the ultimate cut is probably the best version of the film to see. It tells the story we were originally meant to experience, something that the Imperial edition here did not provide, and something which the this version here, oh, hang on a second, most definitely did not provide, the 90-minute version of it, which is, put bluntly, absolute bullshit. So, the ultimate cut of Caligula, it's worth getting. The transfer is good. There is not a single frame in the ultimate cut that is in any other version of the film. They have used alternate takes all the way through, and it is fascinating to watch something which you thought you might have been familiar with and yet be so utterly different and alien to you. The ultimate cut is, if you must see only one version of Caligula, and if you've got to watch it, heaven help you, the ultimate cut is the one to go for. Right, short, sweet, certainly shorter than the film. And by the way, the film is 10 times longer than this YouTube video. So watch it, knock yourself out. Make yourself, you've got a gun and a pack of sandwiches like Tom York in that B-side from the OK Computer era. And I will see you some other time. So thank you, and see you soon. All right, bye.